right, President Joe Biden in town. PPE Day. Valley residents are voting. And across the state of Arizona, we've got 16 candidates, 9 Republicans, 7 Democrats. Really, all that matters is Donald Trump and Joe Biden.
I was going to say, I triple dog dare you to name the 16.
Bruce,
you know?
It's the War Room. Why don't we introduce our panel? The panel is Bruce St. James. I am Gatos. Kristen Benz joins us. KB Advisory Group. Hello.
Hello.
We've got Stacy Pearson, Lumen Strategies, Arizona. Hello to you.
Hello.
And we've got Chuck Coughlin, president of High Ground. What's up, man?
Yo, brother.
Let's do this thing.
All right.
It's good to see you.
Good to see all of you. Okay, why don't we start with Arizonans going to the poll?
Well,
Going to the polls.
Are they?
I think some are. But when they go, or if they're thinking about going, or if they mailed in their ballot, why don't we open with immigration? Let's open with the border. Are Arizonans talking about immigration and the border? Is that their number one issue? Because in a moment, we're going to get to this new Texas law that may actually hurt the state of Arizona. So coming out, they're going to the polls. Is immigration and the border, is it number one?
Absolutely.
Number one before the economy.
It is the number one issue right now, but we're 200 days away from ballots getting mailed again.
Right.
But right now it is. And what has happened is Democrats see the humanitarian crisis and see families that had been separated or see folks sleeping in the Bisbee City Hall.
Right.
And they're astounded, right? They're horrified. And the same is true on the Republicans. They see folks coming into the country without documentation, and they're concerned for an entirely different set of reasons, but now we've combined them both into a super crisis.
Yeah, it's been consistently at the top of the radar charts out here. But, you know, what I say about Arizona is a more sophisticated electorate, having dealt with this issue for over a decade.
We're not new to this.
No, this isn't our first time around the track here.
But Kristen, I wonder from you, because you know economy, you know the economics of what's happening in America. Do you think it's economy, or is it the border? Is it? I mean, because you have said, hey, this economy isn't great. The numbers look pretty good, but you've made an argument this economy under Bidenomics not very good. Do you think people coming out are more about the economy or the border?
Well, I think the border is affecting the economy to them. And it's not just an Arizona thing. Now it's a Chicago thing and a New York thing and a Denver thing and a Seattle thing. So ironically, you would think it's the economy, stupid, but it's become, to your point, Stacey, it really is about immigration.
So we have the War Room. It's Kristen Benz, Stacy Pearson, Chuck Coughlin, Bruce, and Gatos. We're going to be here for the hour. Bruce, why don't we get into this Texas law enforcement and what is going to happen now in Texas and how it affects Arizona?
Yeah, so it's called SB4, and the Supreme Court ruled today on the stay. In other words, it was not being enforced in Texas because of a judge's order. That judge's order has been lifted. It's going to go back into the court system. But in the meantime, it is technically in effect as of this moment, allowing local law enforcement, Texas law enforcement, to arrest and, according to the law, deport people they suspect of being in this country illegally, who've crossed in illegally. I thought one of the interesting caveats is Mexico has already announced they will not be accepting anyone.
Shut the door.
That the state of Texas, they will accept from Customs and Border Patrol, the feds, but they do not recognize Texas as someone who can kick people back across the border. It seems like it is, did Texas learn nothing from SB 1070?
Well, I think this is all predicated on the play that they think that there's a different court. There's a different court in Washington that will review this differently.
So kind of like with Roe v. Wade, we're going to bring another case in front of them that we think this time it'll pass.
We think we're going to roll the dice on this one to get it there. But I don't see the lower courts upholding it just because of precedent. The precedents, most lower courts have to, stare decisis. How's that for a big word? It's a big word. I'm proud of myself.
Google that here in a second.
Bigger than symposium.
I'm playing a lawyer on radio. So by act of precedence, you would assume that states will have to bow under federal law. That
Supremacy
federal law
clause.
is a supremacy clause.
Yeah.
It is their job to enforce the nation's immigration laws and not anybody else's. And so you would feel that would be the ruling all the way up. And I do agree with different people on the Supreme Court. You may get a different ruling.
I think that's amazing.
You may get a
because
different ruling.
I just don't understand how a Supreme Court of by the way, originalists, who interpret the word will be able to look at the supremacy clause and go, yeah, but not with Texas. I mean, you guys can make your own laws. We're okay with that.
Let me just understand. If the lower court knocks it down, says you can't do that, it won't go back to the Supreme Court.
No, it will.
It will still go back to the Supreme Court.
Regardless who loses, they're going to the Supreme Court.
As we've seen in the Donald Trump criminal trials,
Right.
you can appeal.
Yeah.
The clock continues to run.
Because
so.
again, the Supreme Court only ruled on the stay. They didn't rule on the merits
Right.
of
Okay.
SB4. So
Right.
whoever loses at the lower court next time,
Yeah.
and they're having like an emergency Zoom hearing tomorrow or something.
But, do they put the stay back in place?
I
Does
don't know.
that come
Yeah.
back in place? Or, because we really have chaos now. I mean, that,
Without a doubt.
You just described, I'm listening to you guys on the way over here. I'd read this story beforehand. I'm like, this is chaos. This is, you got already the Dallas Police Department saying, well, we're not going to do this.
Yeah, we're not participating.
So is anyone on the panel for this? Is anyone on the panel for it in Texas? Kristen?
I think Texas has had enough.
Yeah, I agree. I think Arizona's had enough. But
I agree.
It comes to a point where some things are just not legal, and some things are just not going to pass muster at the court.
And there aren't enough cops. Period. I'm married to one. I'm the Democrat, right?
Yeah,
I'm
right.
the Democrat who's pro law enforcement. We can't get enough guys to shag calls in downtown Mesa on a Tuesday.
They're just
We
running
certainly-
911 to 911
right.
calls. Yeah.
I
So,
mean,
Stacey, let
we've
me
got
ask
a
you.
crisis.
You're married to a cop.
I am.
Does your husband, let's say he was in Texas, does he want to have the power maybe to pull somebody over and say, listen, I'm gonna need to see some identification if you're here legally? Because I think a cop their job is hard enough.
It's hard enough. And I'll tell you an anecdote during 1070.
Okay.
He pulled over a guy who had blown through a stop sign.
Okay.
And young Hispanic man, couple of kids in the car, 10 p.m., crashed through didn't even stop, didn't even tap his brakes. The kids were going a little nutty in the back. And the guy gets out of the car and he's crying. And he thought he was going to get deported. This was during the 1070. And my husband was like, I thought you were drunk. Like, I didn't want you to go kill a family, including your own.
I'm like glad.
Like,
I'm
hey,
happy about
like,
this.
This is not my local problem. In fact,
Right.
I've got 6 calls holding. Like,
Right.
this isn't. And who in local law enforcement, they don't have time to transport. Where are they going to transport these guys?
Take them to where?
We're going to Fifth Avenue Jail. Like,
Right.
are we going to open up Tent City again? Like, where are you physically going to move people?
It's a perfect anecdotal example of what exactly happens here. But it's also the perfect anecdotal example of why these things happen, because they create tension in the environment, and the tension is supposed to be digested politically somehow.
Right.
And that is the difficult thing that
And
we're
this is a
doing
political
right now.
move. Obviously.
Well, everything's political,
Fair
right?
enough,
I
yeah.
mean, everything is one sense or another political, and we are digesting some rather large morsels right now in this time of our nation's history.
The problem with what Texas is doing, and you're listening to the War Room on KTAR. The problem with what Texas is doing is, however long this law is going to stand, before the lower courts get to it, before the Supreme Court gets to it, you're going to have cartels funneling people away from Texas to Arizona to California. I really don't care about California because I don't live there. I live here. And I think that we're going to see a lot more migrants come in over the border.
Well, and we've already seen, the Tucson sector is
Yeah, Lukeville. We
kind
saw
of the
Lukeville
main
get overrun.
funnel right now. It can only get more.
They do that. We know that. The cartels operate depending on the areas of least resistance.
Why wouldn't you?
Eagle Pass has calmed down in Texas. They've said that because there's a giant enforcement, and they know Texas is serious about it too. Okay, we're not going to go there anymore. So let's probe around Arizona, see what's a soft spot there. Let's go back to Southern California, see if there's
How
a soft
does New
spot there.
Mexico get left out of all this?
I don't know.
Can we send them over to Las Cruces?
Well,
for goodness sakes?
that's a really good question. But here's my supposition on that.
I'm ready.
It's very difficult, and the reason Arizona became the center point of all this is because the access to transportation. You can immediately be in Metro Phoenix, and you get anywhere in the country,
Yeah.
either by plane, by
Bus,
bus,
whatever, right.
by anything, by any mode of transport. going to New Mexico and like, where am I going here? I can't get out of here fast
I
enough.
love the fact that
Nowhere.
we take a shot at New Mexico.
Well, you might like that, too.
He's Chuck Coughlin. We've got Stacey Fairson, Kristen Benz, all in studio along with Gatos and myself. It's the War Room on Arizona PPE Day. Tell you what, we're going to come back, and on the other side of this, why are independent voters not allowed to vote in Arizona's presidential preference election, and should they be allowed to? We're going to dig into it. We're Outspoken right here in the War Room on KTAR. It's the War Room. What an incredible group of people we've put together. Some of the brightest minds in the Valley, and we're lucky to have them in the studio with us. For example, there's Stacey Pearson. She's a Democratic strategist with Lumen Strategies, Arizona. Kristen Benz with the KB Advisory Group. We know Kristen like that, but come on here. And Chuck Coughlin, president of High Ground Consulting. Great to have you guys here in the studio. We are very lucky on PPE Day. Yippee!
Woo-hoo.
It's PPE
Pop the
Day.
corks. It's pretty exciting.
I got a lot of issues with PPE Day, okay? Number one, why are we having an election after it's already been decided who the nominees are? By the way, Stephen Risher, Maricopa County recorder. I asked him, and he said, we spend millions on this, so we're having millions for a beauty pageant today, for lack of a better term. I call it electing Spirit King. Because it has about the same weight as Spirit King.
Well, under Arizona law, the delegates aren't even bound by this vote.
No, it's
It
not
is
even legally
literally,
binding.
as you just said, a beauty contest.
It is absolutely a beauty contest. It is not a legally binding vote.
No matter what happens today, they can vote for whomever they
Mickey
want.
Mouse,
Right.
if they choose.
Exactly.
Exactamundo. But maybe the bigger issue is independents in the state of Arizona. I'm going to average. It's about a third of the 30.8% or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
In Maricopa County, it's larger. They're actually the largest voting bloc, independents, yet they're locked out of this. Are any of you in favor of opening up PPEs and primaries? I know you can do it in the primary, but you have to change your, and you have to go, it's paperwork. Opening it up and having something more like open primaries.
I have an effort underway for you, Bruce. It's
Yes,
right
Chuck.
teed up for you. It's makeelectionsfairaz.com.
Okay.
And that is exactly the constitutional initiative that we're engaged in right now. And one of the aspects of that, because we debated this when we were writing it, was this presidential election, preference election. Why is it that taxpayers pay for this?
Yes, like me.
Taxpayers pay for all of it, and yet a third of the electorate cannot vote unless you choose to register with their party.
Right.
I'm like, why?
Well, the argument is like, I'm an independent, so I can't vote in today's election, but there's no independent candidate for me to vote for.
Right.
And so some people are saying, well, you shouldn't vote. Well, why not? Because you don't have an indendent candidate.
Yeah, but the
You can
R's
vote
and
in the
D's.
general election.
R's and D's made sure there would be no independent
I can vote.
candidates.
Kristen, you're right. I can vote in the general election, but it is strange that we have so many independents, and they have to jump through a hoop to vote in the PPE, where they have to change their party for a day or two. I don't get it.
The simple answer is treat every voter equally, treat every candidate equally, treat every voter the same, treat every voter fairly, every candidate fairly. Let them all play out. I mean, now that, as you guys have just said, now that over a third of the electorate
Right.
is unaffiliated, why do we continue to do this?
Stacey, you want to keep it the same?
No, I don't want to experiment, but I don't want to keep it the same
You
either.
don't like
right.
you don't like Chuck's idea.
I don't like
She is
Chuck's idea.
She is exactly the right kind of voter to
I
talk to.
don't. Yeah, I don't like Chuck's idea. I don't like his plan.
I want to
Yeah.
know why you don't like Chuck's plan.
Because the system is working as designed to some degree.
Agree.
We
Is
have
it working well, though?
we have 60 since the last presidential primary day. I pulled this up today in preparation for you fine folks.
Thank you.
There are 60,000 fewer Democrats registered in Arizona. And we've got roughly 140,000 new independents. The Republicans have gained ground too, about 76,000. So the parties have to come back to a place of sanity if they want to survive. And I'm not sure if we add more options, we solve for the problem of insanity.
I think you're operating on the hope principle, and I can tell you there ain't a lot of hope in a lot of these.
fair.
You know, I really hope that their sanity comes back. We seem to be speeding in the opposite direction.
I go to the simple analogy, it's like a restaurant.
Okay.
I want to go to a restaurant. I want to order there's multiple things on the menu. I'm going to a restaurant with my election with 2 choices on the menu.
Right.
I don't like the choices.
Don't like 'em.
So let's put more choices on the menu. Americans are smart. They do this in Australia. They do this in Ireland. They do this around the globe. They do it in Alaska. They do it in California has an
Maine,
open
I
primary.
think, yeah,
you know, Maine has a new. Nebraska doesn't even have parties in the legislative races. It's just an open free-for-all. Let it. We can do this.
May
We're
the
smart
best
enough
man
to
or
do
woman
this.
win.
See, I kind of liken this to an HOA situation.
Okay.
Oh, God.
Okay.
Oh, my God.
So if we're voting in my building for an HOA president, I don't want you, Larry Gatos, who is not even living in my
See,
building,
I knew it.
to vote for the head of my HOA.
I want to stick my nose where it doesn't belong in your
Don't be
building.
a Karen, Larry.
I want to be a
That's
Karen.
funny.
But no, that's how.
That's my analogy.
But see, that's how it was explained to me as a guy who's an independent. You don't get to vote in this because you don't have a candidate who is an independent. And Republicans have a candidate who there's a Republican. There are plenty of Republicans. Go vote for one of them. There are plenty of Democrats. Go vote for one of them. How many independents are there? 0. Okay, so me now the independent, I don't get to vote.
But I
there.
don't want to be a member of a party, Larry. I don't want to be.
I'm right there with you.
I want to.
agree.
I want to vote for the best person. I don't want to have to be bookended into one slot or another. I want to be an American. I want to choose. I want to have. I mean.
So choose.
Washington,
So
Lincoln,
choose.
or Washington, Adams, and Jefferson, and Madison all predicted this was going to be a problem. They all have written extensively in American history about the banes and evils of factions and parties. And they said
there is
it
just
was
a
the worst thing that
fundamental-
was going to happen in America.
I mean, there is a fundamental unfairness to, as a taxpayer,
yeah.
I am paying for the
your election.
private organizations, the Republican and Democrat Party, so they can hold a beauty contest. If you guys wanted to pay for it yourselves and do it, I got no issue with it whatsoever. Absolutely, you can have a poll tax. You're a Republican, it costs $10 to vote in this one. Great, you fund your own election. Why am I paying for an election I can't participate?
Let me
in?
put a bow on
You can
this.
participate in the general election.
Oh,
Yes, but I'm still
thank
paying
you.
for this one. And by the time I get to the general, I hate everybody in it.
You paid for You paid for the challenges and the
can-
recounts
you-
too.
you-
You paid
I
for
know.
the
You can have the after
crazy
dinner
whirly
cocktail,
birds.
but you can't get a meal here.
So here's what's happening today in the PPE.
Yeah.
All right, who's voting? Voters over 65 are accounting for 6 to 10 ballots. 6 out of 10 ballots.
If you've seen
And
a lot
who-
of Lincoln Town cars
Yeah.
with blue hair,
and
they're
who-
voting today.
And who are the old people voting for today? The 2 oldest presidential candidates we've ever had. We
There's
got a
that.
bunch of geezers out there that are voting.
Well, but that's going to be the interesting thing. I think that'll be the interesting thing to see tonight is what the outcome is. I mean, because anybody who doesn't vote for Trump or Biden, I don't think that person's voting for
Either
if
one
you
of them
vote
in
in
a
a Republican
general?
primary and you voted for somebody other than Trump, you're not voting for Trump in the general
I think it's a
election.
good argument.
And I
There's
may
some
argue the
numbers.
same thing about all the Democrats.
So we've got 2 segments in the war room left.
Yes.
One segment's going to be on Biden.
Okay.
The other is going to be on Trump. What do
Deal.
we got on Biden next?
Coming up next in the War Room. Did anyone cast a single vote in Arizona for Joe Biden today? We will dig
was me.
into that.
I did.
Oh, you did?
I did.
Stacy's in.
Oh,
Okay.
Stacey
I'm in.
did.
Stacey, we're going to talk about that. We'll let you lead this discussion. It's the War Room right here on Outspoken on KTAR.
We've talked about Arizonans going to the polls. What is the number one issue on this PPE day? We talked about the Texas law that's going to let cops arrest migrants and how that's going to hurt the state of Arizona. We also talked about why independents can't vote today. But right now, we've got 2 segments left. Let's do this segment on Biden and the next one on Trump. Okay. So Biden is in Arizona. He landed, about an hour and a half
5
ago?
o'clock. Yeah. So.
Didn't fall down the stairs. It was
did clearly do that,
fantastic.
yeah.
I was pleasantly surprised. All right, let's get into it. Kristen Bentz is with us, KB Advisory Group. We've got Stacey Pearson, Democratic strategist, Chuck Coughlin, president of High Ground, of course, Bruce and Gatos. Okay, Biden has probably done us, well, not probably. Biden has done us no favors on the border, but the computer chip and the manufacturing that he has brought to Arizona is pretty good, Stacey.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah.
You can't drive in the Northwest Valley and not see the infusion.
$40 billion facility.
$40 billion. And then what that does all the way downstream in the economy. It's the houses those folks need to live in. It's the apartments that they need. It's the uniforms that need to be supplied. It's all of the
Grocery
other
stores,
grocery
restaurants,
stores.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's you look at Vistancia and you've got essentially a company town that popped up in the desert between now and the last election. It's wild.
Well, and on top of that, you got the Intel plant in Chandler, which isn't as big, but it's
$20 billion.
It's a $20 billion facility. I mean, it is unbelievable what has happened in the economy in Arizona. I mean, we're all old enough to remember, retirement, farming,
5 C's,
copper, cotton, cat, climate. But it is substantially changed.
Yeah, those cotton farms are now
manufacturing
microchip plants.
All the stuff that's being built around Williams Gateway Airport out in the East Valley. There's an Apple facility out there. There's all kinds of high-tech employment jobs out there. It is unbelievable.
How much does Biden get credit for? How much should he get credit for that? Because, I mean, this has been going on for a while.
How much does he get credit for?
Like the CHIPS Act, isn't that part of this?
It is,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think it's fantastic. I don't think that he gets all the credit for
No.
that. I think that Arizona had been lobbying for that for a very long time, along with Arizona State University, who's been luring not only students here, but also those companies here as well.
So, Kristen, how does that help the economy?
How does it help?
It's huge. Can you put it
Absolutely.
into perspective?
Absolutely. So, meds and eds anchor an economy. Okay? So you have hospitals and universities. So if you look out your window, pretty good chance you're seeing cranes all over the valley, right? Schools opening, firehouses opening, more extension to campuses, et cetera. ASU is thriving, right?
Largest university in the country.
Absolutely. On top of that, we're bringing in the semiconductor facilities, the chips facilities. What is that doing? That's making the Valley a very attractive place internationally for folks to come to.
I would argue that the other thing, we had done a good job of making this happen as a state.
Yeah.
We
Exactly.
invested in transportation
There
in
we go.
Maricopa County. I'm going to draw Bruce out on that.
Business
With light
friendly.
rail,
Is it fair to say business friendly climate, which Arizona's
Absolutely.
been for a while,
Absolutely.
right?
I mean, you go back to the beginning of the state. You go like Teddy Roosevelt built a dam. That was that began the state. Without the dam, there's no water here.
So let's talk about this. You're listening to The War Room on KTAR. It's PPE day. Some of you folks are going out to vote. So can voters, let's just say come November, can voters look past Biden's bungling of the border and say, wow, he really did something for the economy here, and we should be grateful for that?
That's exactly what he's fundraising to do, right? This is exactly why he's here tonight, for a fundraiser to get some money in the war chest to be able to explain to voters what he's done. And the other question is he's going to be on a ballot with abortion. And that is, if there's not the enthusiasm that Democrats would like to see from the top down, there will be from the bottom up.
Stacey, is that a done deal that abortion is going to be on the ballot? I thought they were still collecting signatures.
They're
I didn't
still
know.
collecting signatures, but I ran 3 initiatives in 21 and 22. They are well ahead of where
You feel comfortable
Can
that
you
it's going to be
tell
on the
us
board?
what it would look like? Do you have any idea what it would look like for voters to look at a ballot? What is abortion? I mean, is it an Arizona law
It
that we're
is.
going
It
to
would
look
be
at?
an Arizona law. We're still waiting to see if the Supreme Court upholds the territorial ban, the ban on all abortions in any time for any reason. That was written at a time where cocaine and leeches were the primary solution to most medical problems.
Right.
So that could very well be returned. We could be returned to that enforcement.
But it's a 100 level question, so it's a constitutional amendment. So it will be in the 100 series. It'll be a Prop 1,
Prop 10
something,
something,
something.
yeah.
And it'll be in that series of questions, which will probably be on the second page of the ballot.
Okay.
A really big
because that would be a huge deal for Biden.
Big driver for
Yeah,
you would think Democrats, but the abortion issue kind of crosses over
Indeed
political
it does.
lines, doesn't it?
Indeed
In
it
Maricopa
does.
County, it does.
Yeah.
No doubt. But it's an interesting thing because it'll drive people there. But the economy is going to be something that, as Stacey just said, is going to be driving his narrative. And as I think we ended the last show talking about, there may be a rate cut coming up too. That's gonna,
Yeah.
Kristen Bentz is saying
we got the financial
Yeah.
wizard over here.
The whiz kid says
declining
no.
to accept that wisdom.
right,
I want to hear that wisdom.
Let's go to Kristen
I want to hear
Bentz.
that.
All right, so you know about the economy, no rate hike, you don't think?
No.
Why not?
Rate cut.
Rate cut.
No
Sorry.
rate cut.
My
So
bad.
initially, when I was on the phone with Broomhead, I told him May at best. But now, if you're looking at this latest jobs report, the bulk of those jobs are part-time jobs. Do you understand what that means? That means that people are getting laid off and they're taking 1, 2, 3 part-time jobs to make ends meet because they're on unemployment.
So you're saying they're not good jobs?
So you're saying I got a chance. They're not good jobs. So what I'm telling you is I don't think the Fed will cut until June at best. Inflation as a 2%, I think we have to take a look at what that really means. I don't think inflation is going to be 2%.
But I'm with you on that. But that's still a rate cut before the election. That'll be good news
Yeah.
for President Biden.
I wouldn't hold my breath.
200
All right,
days till
I'm
ballots
with you.
go out. You said
200
Stacey.
very long days.
I would argue
Very
a lot
long
could
days.
change. A lot could change, right?
So in this segment, we've talked about Joe Biden
Yep.
and the chip plant and the $40 billion out in the West Valley and $20 billion out in the East Valley.
it's
and,
almost 60
All
billion.
the things.
yeah, the
You
economy.
can round it up to that.
I'm no math whiz.
Let's talk Trump.
Yep. Coming up next on the War Room, is Arizona MAGA country or is it anti-MAGA country? We'll dig into that with our War Room panel of experts. We're Outspoken here on KTAR. I'll throw it out there. Arizona, MAGA or anti-MAGA? And what will today's results tell us about a general election?
I think that Arizona is trending more MAGA. I think if you're looking at the Phoenix area, you are, a blue city in a red state. But from what I am seeing, his policies are becoming more of a trend. There's a big question. So is Donald Trump MAGA? Is MAGA Donald Trump?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. The answer is yes.
Yes.
There's no
Yes.
difference.
Yes.
Yes. It is the rebrand. It's no longer the GOP. It's
No, it's
MAGA.
the MAGA party.
It's MAGA.
It's the MAGA
Yeah.
It's
party.
MAGA. So then it's trending that way. I'm going to throw that out there.
What percentage is MAGA? What percentage of Republicans are MAGA?
Too many.
But I mean, he says it's 90 something. That's
No.
not true.
No. It's 60. I'd say
gonna
it's
say
up to
60 or
60,
70.
65% of the party.
So looking at today, and again, you still have, we'll find out how much
Yep.
Ron DeSantis or Nikki Haley gets in votes
Yep.
today. But there are a variety of people who are still on the ballot in the state of Arizona on the Republican side
Right.
of the PBE. Obviously, Donald Trump is going to win.
Yep.
Yep.
Is there a percentage that he should be concerned about? If he
Yeah.
doesn't win by a certain percentage, would you go, well, that's concerning? Because I think you made the point earlier. Anyone who isn't voting for Trump here now ain't voting for him later.
Not on the Republican side. There
Right.
may be protests on the Biden side, but I think if you got a Republican vote that's not voting for Trump right now, that's not coming back to the fold. And I'll explain.
Please.
So what part of his narrative is growing his base? I mean, he's talking about, bad about Nikki Haley. He's trashed Nikki Haley. He's trashed all his opponents. He's got
That's
nicknames
nothing
for
new.
everybody. Right.
I like the
But the
nicknames.
rule in politics is you always have to, the rule is it's
You
the
want their
best kind of
voters.
politics is addition, not subtraction.
Yeah.
You got to add people into your fold. And then I come to the ultimate question is a general election in Arizona. And that is that I've witnessed now since 16, Trump won unaffiliated voters in 16. And the rule is you have to win your 85 to 90% of your own party.
Okay.
So we'll see that tonight.
See how that number comes out.
And then unaffiliated voters aren't participating, and you have to win a majority of those in order to win a statewide election in
Sure,
Arizona.
makes sense.
The last time a MAGA candidate won those voters was 2016.
And that was-
Sinema won them. Kelly won them. Biden won them. Kelly won them. Kelly won them. The governor won them. All of those elections
the
have
MAGA
not
candidates
gone,
have lost.
right, because they have an inability to appeal to that larger part of the electorate.
All right. Well, Trump's legal issues, we got about a minute. Trump's legal issues. I mean, it sounds like a stupid question. Will it help or hurt him? You would think it would hurt. But it seems that every time, right? Kristen, you're rolling your eyes.
Because no one cares.
No one
cares. What is
Agreed.
it? 1.21 gigawatts million that he owes today that he may or may not be able.
454, right?
Exactly.
$1 million.
No one cares.
And fewer people are even tuning into cable news, right?
Yes.
This isn't the folks listening to the show.
Right.
These are folks that are on TikTok and
But
they have
does-
no idea what's happening.
But does a conviction? Let me throw this out. I don't know if there will be one because of
I don't
all
think
of
it'll
the
happen in
delays.
time, right.
But does a conviction hurt him?
It doesn't help.
Yeah, that's
I
what
don't
I
think
think.
it hurts him at this point.
Interesting.
I think there's a percentage of voters that walk away at that.
Kristen, Stacy, Chuck, outstanding. Really appreciate you guys
much fun.
participating today
Love
in the
Thanks for
war
having
room.
us.
room.
Oh, it's a
Come on.
symposium of war.
Throw down.
We're getting T-shirts.
I need a
Oh, I should
T-shirt.
be so
I need a
lucky.
hat. I need a hat.
That
I
would
got a
be
bald head. I need a hat.
Thank you for joining us in the War Room. We'll do it again tomorrow. We have a new panel. Don't take offense, kids. There'll be a new
be as
panel
good as
in
us.
tomorrow. Oh, it couldn't possibly be. Couldn't possibly be.
Thanks for watching Outspoken with Bruce and Gatos. Tap to watch more from KTAR News and click the button in the middle to subscribe.